Hello, this is Alan Wheeler on my YouTube channel where I talk about spirituality and tarot. Usually, I don't know if I'll work in the tarot cards for this episode, as the topic is 9 questions for Odin that I had answered. Um, by way of introduction, I'm trying out the backyard here for recording. I thought if I do a playlist or series on the Druidcraft tarot, kind of a pagan tarot approach to balance the videos I've been making on a Christian approach to tarot, it might do well to film them outside if this works. So I'll give it a try here. The background is, I guess it's been over a year ago when I first started getting professional tarot readings regularly from a priestess, and was first introduced to the idea of working with deity. I was asking questions. I did path working with the Empress through the Tarot of Vampires Empress card, and used that image as a kind of a way of accessing wisdom, kind of channeling the energies there. And at that time, I felt a presence, an energy kind of identified as O, the letter O. And this energy was working through some more cerebral questions than I typically did with the Empress card. And these were kind of more intellectual, reason-based questions. Things like, how can Jesus be the only way when there seem to be so many alternative paths? And I was getting answers like, there could be many faces of the divine, that everyone may need grace or some kind of assistance or connection with the divine, but it may have many expressions. Anyway, things like that. So that was my initial encounter. And the second question number 2, was who is O, and why is this energy or experience hidden, not revealing itself? And this came, the second experience also came with strong vibrations, kind of a strong alpha state in meditation. And so however that's explained, or however you see that kind of thing, either my higher self or this mystical experience was somehow signaling that this was significant to me. Soon after, I saw some YouTube videos saying that it's a fairly common experience for Odin to hide himself and to answer questions with questions, and that there's a bit of a puzzling, putting together of a puzzle that seems to be part of the learning process. It's part of the answer, and part of the wisdom being given is look at what are you asking, why are you asking, and digging in deep in that manner. So I felt that was answered. Also, the rune Ansu's, which is, I'm told it relates to Odin, and hearing came strongly at that time. And so uh, that was, of course, associated with Odin bringing the runes, hanging on the world tree in order to bring the runes as a gift to humanity. The third round, the third time, um, and it's going to sound like I was being kind of a smart aleck, but in no way did I intend it in that manner. But my third um, encounter, I asked, "What is my question?" And I wasn't trying to outsmart um, this energy or anything, but I really felt that um, the maybe I don't know what my real question is, especially after taking a look at that learning process. And the answer came fairly quickly and clearly that um, I'm looking for absolutes. I want to know um, what is written in stone, what is definitive. That's my hunger. Now, at the same time as that thought came to mind, I kind of envisioned the river of um, Heraclitus that is always changing. It's always there between the banks, but it's always fluid, never the same. And um, in a bit, I was rebuked in a bit for wanting everything to be nailed down. Um, but I was facing that, that's exactly right. That's what I wanted to know. That is my question. What can we know for sure? Now, I had been asking several days before for a dream, before going to sleep, please send me a dream. And that was not forthcoming. But that day, Kristen woke up, my wife Kristen woke up and told me she had had a dream of William Shatner in Hawaii. Now, this made no sense to her, and because she thinks this is the actor that played Kirk on the original Star Trek, and she thinks it's a silly character. Um, but to me, it's more nostalgic of that adventuring spirit. And Hawaii was also significant because I spent some time there going to school years ago. And I knew immediately that this dream was saying, um, when you question, explore boldly where others have not gone before. And um, it was imagery maybe only I would understand. The fourth encounter, my question, again, it wasn't in a smart aleck spirit, but I thought, well, okay, then what can we be sure of absolutely? If that's my question, I might as well ask it. What can we be sure of absolutely? And I had the sense that yes, there's peace in knowing what we can know, um, putting faith in what is trustworthy. And I was reminded of Muhammad, who called the Jews and Christians people of the book, um, how the Hindus wrote down in the Vedas and the Upanishads, and how many people keep grimoires, books of shadows, and it's important to write down the wisdom you receive in dreams and things. And um, that there is peace in knowing these things. Um, so, what things are those? I felt like there's some things shared by all faiths. That there's human rights and um, humanism and love, and uh, some things seem to be common sense and shared by all, kind of axioms, we might call them. even if some things are personal, unverifiable, cultural, and relative. Question 5 was the problem of perennialism. Now, um, that was the big breakthrough for me in moving from being a conservative Christian to being a all-inclusive mystic, I guess you'd call me, um, was that idea that uh, many faiths share um, the same universal truths and that we can include everyone. But my question was that there's a problem with that in a way. So many beliefs can't all be true, can they? And I've worked through that since then, but at the time, the idea came to mind that um, on one side of the spectrum, there's traditionalism that tends to be exclusive, more fundamental. On the other far side of the spectrum is this kind of hard universalism that everyone's right, completely right. Everything's completely relative. Um, but there might be a range, and there might be a place, a sweet spot there, where we're inclusive of everyone, but we're committed to what's authentic to us. So we all may have pieces of the puzzle and something to share, um, like the blind man with the elephant. We put all the pieces together, we may have a greater understanding. And so, while there may be some things that are more universal, so maybe every belief isn't completely true, but may have parts of the truth or expressions, so the many faces of the divine. Question 6. Can an inclusive approach include atheism? And um, with this question, I came across, and again, feeling Odin leading me at the same time, I came across the writings of William James, and this is on my website. I'll try to link in the sources section. His book is linked there, The Varieties of Religious Experience. But near his conclusion, he said there are many facets of life: body, mind, heart, will, in the individual, but then we have social life, um, art, science, the physical world, and we need many approaches to these many, many aspects of life, these many facets. Number 7, um, how can I connect more fully to you, Odin? Um, what came to my mind then was meditation, the memory of my father, who was um, a lover of poetry, a lover of wine, in many ways, a fighter, um, and so, uh, in a way of connecting with the energy of Odin. Also, not just meditation and going inward, but walking through life, being aware in daily life of synchronicities and what people are saying, and um, are there divine appointments and arrangements and messages just throughout life. And finally, runes, poetry, other sources of wisdom, research, and things that I had been doing already. Question 8, how to invoke um, Odin? And what came to mind was call, just call, and wait. So sometimes the answer may come in waves or over time. Sometimes there may be a piecing together of a puzzle. There may be cumulative signs or a dawning of light as gradually. the answer comes together. Finally, kind of the burning question at that stage, as I was um, developing at that stage, um, question 9 was how to reconcile working with deity with the injunction, no other gods, in Deuteronomy. And some of the ideas that came at that time, um, each one probably could have a whole video, but just briefly, progressive revelation, that in all religions there seems to be development and progress over time, kind of evolution spiritually, so that um, the battles that were so important to the ancients' survival and invoking deity in battle, then we get more modern um, pagans and Christians alike who say the battle is not against flesh and blood, but it's a um, spiritual battle. And so things are kind of updated. So the specifically named God at that time in that culture could be considered source or higher self, and to have many faces. Um, the injunction against no other gods um, could be it could be in part having to do with that contract or covenant, um, and have cultural um, significance, but it could also be that the other gods refers to lesser things, making money a god, making um, uh, lust a god. So the false, making something false that's not a divine into a god. So these were some of the thoughts. I'll stop here, but those are the 9 questions I had for Odin that I felt I had answers for. Um, those are in the appendix at the bottom of my sources page on the website that I'll link. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll find connection with people in your life, with online community, and on your spiritual path, whatever that might be. Take care.